The story of food in World War II is rarely about generals, weapons or battlefields. It's about ordinary families who found extraordinary ways to stretch every ounce of food when the world around them was running short. If you study wartime diaries, ration books and government circulars from the era, you see a pattern. The nations that endured the longest weren't the ones with the biggest stockpiles. They were the ones whose citizens understood discipline, planning and resourcefulness. For anyone who takes preparedness seriously, the way these families lived offers some of the most practical, hard-earned lessons you'll find anywhere. So, as you watch this today, settle in, not for entertainment, but for real strategies passed down from people who lived through food scarcity on a national scale. These aren't theories. These are methods that kept millions alive through bombing campaigns, shipping blockades and empty shelves. By the time we finish, you'll walk away with knowledge you can use immediately, whether you're building a modern pantry or just improving your household resilience. Lesson 1 begins with the principle that Ration-Era families mastered their inventory with precision rather than emotion. Wartime households knew exactly what they had, where it was, and how long it would last, because guesswork meant hunger. The British Ministry of Food repeatedly reminded families to rotate items in strict order and avoid forgotten tins. Today, that same discipline means creating a fixed storage pattern, labelling everything with dates, and actually using your stock. One practical way to apply this is establishing a weekly rotation ritual where older items are pulled to the front and consumed first. It takes 10 minutes, but saves you weeks of waste. The second lesson is that Ration-Era families diversified their food sources because dependence meant vulnerability. During the war, pork might be unavailable one week, while oats remained plentiful the next. Rather than complain, households developed menus built around options, not favourites. You know, you can do the same by storing not just rice, but wheat berries, oats, pasta, lentils, and, well, shelf-stable roots like potatoes or squash in cool spaces. A diversified pantry doesn't collapse when one item becomes scarce or skyrockets in price. The third lesson is that these families treated leftovers as strategic assets instead of scraps. In fact, cookbooks of the 1940s include entire sections dedicated to repurposing yesterday's meals into something new. They did this because, well, waste was considered unpatriotic and irresponsible. Modern preppers can follow suit by pre-planning second-life meals, such as turning roast chicken into soup, carcasses into broth, and, vegetable trimmings into stew bases. The fourth lesson is rooted in the way they embraced preservation as a household skill rather than a hobby. Canning, drying and bottling weren't side projects. They were essential survival tasks. Families preserved during times of plenty because shortages were guaranteed to come. You can apply this by dedicating part of your seasonal routine to preservation cycles, dry apples in the fall, canned tomatoes in late summer, and pressure can broths year-round. Make it a rhythm, not a novelty. The fifth lesson is that Ration-Era households maintained disciplined portion control instead of relying on appetite. Serving sizes were precise, often measured down to the ounce. This extended supplies without compromising health. In a modern setting, This same principle prevents the silent depletion of your pantry. Control isn't deprivation, it's intelligent planning. The sixth lesson is that they relied heavily on shelf-stable basics because those items created the backbone of food security. Flour, dried beans, fat, sugar, and powdered milk were the tools that could transform almost anything into a meal. Even today, stocking long-lasting staples gives you a foundation that doesn't collapse under supply chain disruptions. Start with airtight 5-gallon containers, oxygen absorbers, and stable storage temperatures. The seventh lesson comes from how they adapted their recipes to match the food they had, not the food they wished they had. Wartime cooks swapped ingredients seamlessly, using carrot puree instead of sugar or oats instead of breadcrumbs. This mindset is invaluable today. A flexible cook can work with whatever is available. Practice substitutions now, so you aren't learning under pressure. The eighth lesson lies in how they prioritize fats as essential survival items, not luxuries. Butter, lard, and cooking oils were among the most tightly rationed foods because they contain dense calories needed for energy. You know, many preppers overlook this. Store oils in dark containers, rotate them every 6 to 12 months, and, well, keep backup calorie sources like peanut butter and canned coconut milk. The ninth lesson is shown in their wartime victory gardens, which existed to supplement, not replace, stored food. Gardens extended ration allowances and provided fresh vitamins, but families never relied on them alone. In modern prepping, gardening should be one pillar, not the entire system. Grow seasonal foods you actually eat, and, of course, preserve the surplus. The 10th lesson is that they understood the importance of community exchange. Neighbours traded eggs for flour, sugar for vegetables, or labour for meals. This wasn't charity. It was a survival network. You can apply this today by building local connections with gardeners, farmers and neighbours, rather than assuming independence means isolation. The 11th lesson shows how Ration-Era households practice strict energy management to protect stored food. They minimized openings of cold cellars, avoided unnecessary heating of kitchens, and, well, used insulated boxes to keep cooked food warm longer. These habits reduce fuel use and protected perishable stocks. Today, that translates into optimizing your storage environment by keeping pantries cool, limiting temperature swings, and insulating long-term containers. The 12th lesson is the mindset that scarcity prepares discipline, and discipline preserves life. Ration-Era families didn't store food because they were afraid. They stored food because it was responsible, rational, and, expected. If you're building your own long-term pantry today, adopt that same mindset of calm, steady preparation. If these lessons from World War II Ration-Era families strengthened your preparedness thinking, then make sure you subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles and share this video so more people can learn from the past while preparing for the future.